Dune is an all-timer, simple as that. Denis Villeneuve is one of this generation's greatest auteur filmmakers, and going into this movie, I was very excited to see what he would do with Dune because of his iteration of Blade Runner 2049, which I thought was just about as perfect as could be. You see, I'm a really big fan of the original Blade Runner, and I was afraid that Blade Runner 2049 was going to be kind of a pale imitation of what Ridley Scott was able to do. But Denis Villeneuve understood the source material and elevated it in some ways to make a science fiction epic for the 21st century. So let's just say I was really excited for Dune, because I believe Villeneuve will be one of these filmmakers that will be studied in film schools for future generations of film classes. I wouldn't be surprised if future filmmakers in film school say, I saw Dune in theaters and now I'm here, in film school, in debt, with no future career path. But this is in a similar vein to what people said about Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings trilogy 20 years ago. And this isn't to say that Dune is just a science fiction Lord of the Rings, because I actually think that's an unfair estimate to the unique visual splendor of this film. Lord of the Rings is a spectacle, but it's also like a whimsical adventure, and Dune isn't that at all. Dune is dense and it's psychological, and it's about the inner fears that we all must face. Fear is the mind killer. Is this destiny that calls us, or is it just a voice telling us this must be why we belong? The book Dune is so acclaimed because of the subject matter, but also because it does resonate with an audience. Paul Atreides is an audience conduit, placing us within his personal psyche and his own inner anxieties, making the film Dune feel like an out-of-body experience for the mind and soul. So I guess I'll say what everyone else said about this film first, and that is that Dune is a technical achievement of epic and even biblical proportions. The scope of this film I don't think has been reached by anyone else in the history of cinema. The VFX is just astounding as well. It's almost like Villeneuve storyboarded this movie or something. It's incredible. You know, we have all of these Marvel movies, which I enjoy, but they all feel kind of the same and have the same scope and have the same jokes. So it's really, really nice to have a movie that actually takes itself seriously that's on this scale. It is astonishing to actually watch. Not to say that blockbusters should no longer have humor, but once again, it's just really refreshing to see a movie actually treat itself with importance because it believes that it is important and it has a poignant effect within a society. I do think that some audiences will have a hard time connecting to the film because of its deliberately slow pace and complicated storyline, and just dismiss it as boring, and I think that's a shame. Again, as much as I enjoy a Marvel movie, it has ruined the attention span of a generation of audiences that expect a high-budget special effects movie to fit a certain mold and narrative. Just because we have no real obvious scene where a character must become a hero the destiny has proclaimed him to be, doesn't mean there's not beautiful character work going on here. I personally really connected to Paul and his struggles of having this responsibility on his shoulders he didn't ask for, and having to navigate who he is and why he is the way that he is. I don't want to get too specific for spoiler's sake, but there's a specific scene in a tent that gave me chills all down my back, because it was such an important and potent character moment. Timothée Chalamet is amazing in the film. He is able to be so subtle with his character. He seems distant, but every moment that requires him to let go and have true catharsis, he sells so incredibly well. It makes every moment even more powerful. There is so much setup in the film, but it's all so intriguing. I have to study even more about the inner politics and allegories the story covers, because I know I just have the faintest idea of all the density behind the subject matter. I'm on like page 180 of the book, so I'm definitely not an expert yet. I understand this is mostly a story about American imperialism and the devastating consequences imperialism can have on communities we tend to overlook, and the consequences for an overreach of power, but I believe the film is reaching for stuff even beyond that simple framework. I also believe the film works as a beautiful metaphor for living with any sort of ailment. Paul doesn't want to be given the position he is, and doesn't want the power he obtains, and yet he feels obligated to do the right thing, and I believe you can connect that struggle with one that we all face, the obligation of just living the daily rat race, to make enough money to fund our own living. I know it isn't on the same scale as Paul trying to save his entire race, but there is a sense of poignancy that comes from Paul's struggle. Walking out of this movie, I felt a euphoria swept over me, like I just experienced something truly new. A filmmaker taking the medium to a whole new level. Is this what it was like when Star Wars hit theaters back in 1977? I can only imagine, but stepping out of Dune, the nighttime air felt different. Each breath and step felt different. There was a new appreciation for an art medium I've devoted so much to. Dune is something unlike anything else I've seen, and seeing it at the IMAX opening night was nothing short of an experience I'll never forget. Movies never left. They've always been here. But it's sure good to see an all-timer blockbuster on the big screen for the first time again. It feels like being home, to why I fell in love with the medium anyways. That moment I first saw the T-Rex roar in Jurassic Park, or Luke Skywalker look out into the sunset at the two planets in Star Wars. This is a movie that I believe will outlive us all, which is why Dune gets a 10 out of 10. 2021. Goodness gracious, 2021. You need to calm down. You're releasing way too many all-timers, bud. Alright, we just gotta sit down. I can't handle all the good movies that are coming out right now. Man, goodness, this one really hit me, guys. This one really hit me. I know this has some divisive reactions to it. A lot of people are like, it's only a part one. You liked Avengers Infinity War, get over it. It's a part one. It's still a complete story. It still has a beginning, middle, and end. It still wraps things up really nicely in a tight bow. Okay? Calm down. Calm down. I'm really defensive of this movie. This movie blew me away. It's been a few days since I've watched it, and it's still just like, I don't know, man. So, like, comment, subscribe, do all the YouTube things for more content from me, and I'll talk to you guys later. I should get a new outro. I probably should. Yeah, you think so? Okay, yeah. And see you guys next time.